Hello YouTube and welcome back to World of Warplanes with Wadres, and today's video is kind of brought to you courtesy of the current event they have going on in World of Warplanes to earn one of the tier 10 bombers at an 80% discount. Now of course this does involve completing a few missions that I just kind of needed to bypass in order to actually unlock the discount. And, well, the other thing was I kind of wanted to put some work into actually advancing my bomber line, specifically for the bomber that I wanted, which is the German tier 10 bomber. I think it's the Ef-131. And so I've kind of been spamming my Ju-288A and 288C for the last couple of weeks, very hard and heavy. And that was all well and good right up until I realized that as long as I had enough free EXP in my account, I could just research the tier 10 bomber without having to have anything else, any of the prior aircraft actually researched or purchased. So if nothing else, I've at least progressed most of the way through the tier 8. And I've already got my tier 10 German bomber. But a couple of the battles that you're going to be seeing in the background are just a couple of the battles where I was running around in my Ju-288A. And this is kind of the whole sequence that I've gotten used to running around with the German bombers. Just kind of dropping down to the optimal altitude for bombing, and then as soon as I've offloaded everything, I go full throttle up to almost near max altitude, just because that's about the only way I can really get away from any of the heavy fighters that could be hunting me otherwise. Now, I'm not going to be I'm not going to blow my own horn and say that I am a good player when it comes to running either of these bombers, or any of these bombers for that matter, just because, well, the way I play them is probably different from the way they should be played, and, well, while it works for me, it doesn't usually land me with the greatest amount of points or earnings for any particular match. So it does kind of tend to drag along a little bit. Now, that being said, the one match you are watching currently is one of the better matches that I had, and I owe that primarily to the fact that this match had not just one but two factories on the map that I was able to work on capturing, or at least stalling the enemy's capture of. And that definitely played a lot into my hands. And I will definitely go out on a limb and say, if nothing else, that I was probably very instrumental in the capture of both of those factories, and thus to the victory of my team. This does kind of bring me to some of the issues that I've been noticing, though, with World of Warplanes, is that yeah, you can have some matches in a bomber where you do absolutely phenomenal as a bomber, and then you look at your team, and your team is just outright failing, and, well, at that, you are only a bomber. There's really not an incredible amount that you can do from an offensive standpoint, aside from directly capturing and damaging capture point. Needless to say, while a bomber can definitely make or break a team, a bomber does not make a team. The bomber does not actually do anything to actually challenge the enemy aircraft, really. And on top of that, any bomber that actually does try to challenge the enemy aircraft really isn't going to do very well for itself. I mean, granted, okay, in the battle at hand, I am challenging an enemy bomber, but the only reason I can get away with that is because the enemy bomber has turrets just like I do. They are predominantly automated, especially when I'm trying to engage him and keep him really just kind of dodging and ducking. But beyond that, that's really about all I can do. If a fighter, per se, were to come along and start trying to attack me, there's not much of anything, really, that I can actually do aside from get shot down. It's definitely one of those things that can be very, very annoying. And as a player who does spend, or has been spending a lot of time in my bombers lately, I can definitely say that it has been exceptionally annoying, only from the standpoint of the fact that when the team is failing, there's nothing that I can really do to help the team, because I literally have no gunpowder that can contribute to taking out enemy aircraft unless they are deliberately chasing me. And even if they're deliberately chasing me, the turrets really aren't the best. They're good for taking out maybe individual normal fighters. If I get a heavy fighter on my tail, I'm pretty much dead. And if I try to stick it out at high altitude, my bombing accuracy goes down. And it's just one of those things that I've just kind of gotten this sort of fed up with. Is just I've had a number of matches where I've been phenomenal as a bomber. I've even come out top of the team as a bomber and ended up losing the matches just because the rest of the team can't seem to hold together worth shit. Not to put too fine a point on it. I do kind of have to come right out and say, though, that bombers do tend to put in a lot more work than I think some people give them credit for, and I actually find it rather annoying when, as a bomber, I come out at the top of the team. And, well, granted, technically being top of the team isn't a bad thing. It kind of makes me wonder what the rest of the team is doing, because really, a bomber is very limited in what they're capable of doing over the course of a match. In fact, they're extremely limited in what they're capable of doing over the course of a match. And as a result, when the bomber is coming out top of the team, when you've got fighters, heavy fighters that have substantially more potential to do direct damage to the enemy team as a whole and just farm all kinds of personal points, when the bomber's coming out top of the team for personal points, combat effectiveness, so on and so forth, with other players on the team, especially, I'm not talking bots, I'm talking other actual players, it makes me wonder how many of these players are actually trying to enjoy playing the game or just enjoying kind of running around and getting shot down and not really feeling like they want to actually contribute to anything other than shooting down the enemy, and actually doing so in an effective manner, like, say, waiting for them to be in a actual kill area where they can actually earn capture progress. Of course, one of the other issues in that same regard is just why can't they just stop dying? I mean, do I just end up with newer players, I guess, and they're not as experienced or skilled or whatever? It's just annoying. It's highly annoying, actually. And as I've already said, when I come out top of the team as a bomber, especially a bomber that has limited ordnance like the German bombers, I can't help but think that there's just something very wrong there. And I hope some players probably agree with me on that regard, because it's nuts. And yes, by the way, I am doing a central match for this video in one of my German attack planes, just because I wanted to do something that was a little bit more exciting and active for the video, just to kind of not really lose the audience just from running all over the place in a bomber. So I do hope you all forgive me for that, but it does change things up a little bit. It does keep you, I would hope it at least holds your interest a little bit for the overall run. And don't worry, I am going to be getting back to another bomber vid before too terribly long. But it's just... coming back to what I was saying though, having been basically spamming bombers for like the last 2 weeks straight trying to get the tier 10 German bomber and just get progress overall, it's been annoying as hell, because while the two battles that you're going to be seeing are, I do believe both of them are victories. I know the first one was, and I honestly can't remember right offhand as I'm doing the voiceover if the second was, but it's just that those victories were few and far between, let me put it that way. It was one of those things where 9 times out of 10, the battles that I had where I loaded in with a bomber, they were losses. And primarily because the team just outright sucked. And granted, there were a couple of those battles where I didn't exactly do stellar myself, but hey, I'm in a bomber. Technically, I shouldn't be doing especially stellar anyway. But when the team has especially good players in it and just outright fails, on top of the fact that I don't consider myself to be a bad player. I'm not a stellar player myself, but I'm not a bad player. I'm just in a bomber, which has very limited functionality. And I can't really, again, offer much support to the team aside from capturing key areas. I'm not 100% sure what word I'm actually looking for there, but I hope you all kind of understand where I'm going. It's aggravating. I think that might actually be the word. I've had more than a few times where I've just... I stopped, just kind of stopped, sat down, and I was ready to stop playing for a little bit, or had to stop and breathe for a little bit and remember it is just a game, because nobody else seemed to be effective at anything. Anywhere. Oh, and by the way, that was an accidental crash. I seriously do not believe that for an accidental crash a player should be credited for the kill, but you know what? Oh well. I guess it's just because he did the vast majority of damage to me, and I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, overall, it's just been a really grindy, annoying, interesting couple of weeks trying to get the whole bomber thing squared away. That having been said now, I do have the tier 10 German bomber. I did get the full 80% discount on it. So I would expect to see, or try to get up a video eventually on it. Just for grins more than anything else. And just to see what I can do with it overall. I think I've only... Actually, I've unlocked it, but I haven't done anything in it yet. Primarily because by the time I realized that, oh yeah, I could unlock it and purchase it, and I did, it was like, I want to get away from this game. Not only did I want to get away from World of Warplanes, I've also kind of been wanting to get away from World of Warships, too. Just because everything lately, especially in World of Warships, has been so friggin' grindy, it's not even funny. Up to and including the current Russian victory or Honor versus Victory, or Honor versus whatever campaign they've got going on right now in World of Warships. It's just, there's been too much going on, and I need a break from something. I need a break from wargaming as a whole. So, as much as I hate to say it, you're probably not going to see an overwhelming number of World of Warships or World of Warplanes videos from me over the next week or so, while I kind of decompress and move on to other things that I've been wanting to enjoy for a little bit. In fact, I do have a video slated for somewhere over the next couple of days. I do need to work on my voiceover for it, but I decided to pick up Mass Effect 1 from Steam, and I just want to do a voiceover video while I go through that and just talk about things that are going on in general. But if you all are interested in that, maybe when I post it, you can watch it. It is going to be a little bit on the long side, though, just because, well, I can't really do replay recordings on that. So, and I just kind of wanted to do a whole single mission in it instead of just kind of having little snips here and there. So it is going to be a longer video, and I do need to spend a little bit of time to actually voice it over, but I do hope to get it out there. And hopefully it doesn't come under fire from posting any EA material, especially if I at least make all the proper attributions or whatever, saying that I'm not going to monetize it. But that's another matter entirely. We'll see how that goes. I'm kind of doing the video on it as an experiment in the first place anyway. And again, I am also kind of doing that just out of interest of wanting to try and still put out videos, but also still wanting to just kind of take a little bit of a break from my usual fodder for videos, as it were. It's also possible that as I go along, I may do a Mass Effect 2 video or something, or maybe even another Mass Effect 1. We'll see. It all depends on how things go in regards to the first posting and the response I get from it. That being said, I do intend to get back to World Warships or World of Warplanes. I'm not going to abandon them, not entirely, but I am, again, just wanting to take a quick break, get away from the grind, and do something else that's not quite so aggravating or stressful for me right at the moment. Coming back to talking about World of Warplanes bombers, though. One of the things that I've been somewhat having fun with in regards to some of the bombers in World of Warplanes, at least, specifically the American bomber line, is that there are a couple of them, the B-32 being the most notable, which just the sheer amount of ordnance that thing carries. I've had some phenomenal battles in my B-32. Granted, I tend to just kind of sit up at high altitude, kind of right on the edge between maximum and high above optimal, where my engine performance isn't affected too severely, and I just kind of end up sitting up there. And I've learned very quickly that, especially with the factory capture zones, you can flip an entire factory from high altitude in a B-32 in one run. And I'm not talking one run where you drop the entire payload either. I'm just talking a single run, 20 bombs. And a B-32 carries 40 bombs. So yeah, this thing can flip an entire capture point in one run, as long as it's the right kind of capture point or you hit the right targets within the capture zone. And oh yeah, it is a fun aircraft to play. And the other nice thing is it's got defensive turrets at the yin-yang. If you have a fighter that comes in on you from the side, oh my god, you can just tear them to shreds. So that is one of the bombers that I have enjoyed playing, to say the least, and it is a very, very fun aircraft to jump into on occasion. If granted, anytime I get a heavy fighter that gets on me, just like any other bomber, they're pretty much going to obliterate me, but I can definitely be reasonably assured that I'm going to do at least a fair chunk of damage to them in turn, so long as they just aren't sniping me from long range. But it can definitely be a fun experience for a bomber, which is, I suppose, given some of the other things that I've already said, a bit of a mixed experience. I will definitely say, though, that I still find the most fun to come from just playing the normal fighters. The de Havilland Vampire, the P-80 Shooting Star is a phenomenal airplane to jump into. And granted, these are Tier 8 premiums. But, I mean, for anybody who has the determination, the vigilance, whatever, the de Havilland Vampire is at least an aircraft that you can earn for free in-game. And it's not bad. It's a very good, solid, sturdy aircraft. The P-80 Shooting Star is a premium aircraft that does have to be bought, but it's still very, very effective and very capable, and I have definitely enjoyed playing it for the time that I've had it. And of course there are also the various Spitfires, but I'm kind of starting to branch out into some of the other lines that I've been neglecting, like the multi-role fighter lines and so on and so forth, just because I do kind of want to start, filling out my hangar a little bit. Anyway, on that note, that's kind of everything that I really wanted to discuss as far as World of Warplanes, just to kind of give those of you who are interested a little bit of an update in that regard. And just kind of give you the feel for where I'm at as a whole for wargaming, warplanes, warships in general. On that note, though, I suppose I shall go ahead and let everybody go. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you do not forget to like and subscribe if you are new to the channel and like what you have seen. And I hope to catch you all again next time. Hope you all take care. Happy hunting.